unpredictable. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. Friday at 8:30, 7:30 Central Time on NBC.
I presume there is a reason for all of this.
There is, yes.
The device. You know how it works, of course.
I've seen what it does. How it works is entirely another question.
The guidance factors are pretty sophisticated. Transmitter activated by the constant changes in atmospheric pressure.
Oh, very ingenious. I wonder why our people never thought of that.
All of the gadgets were always great fun.
These poor prop men had a tiny, tiny budget, and they'd have to come up with something that was replicating what was in the script, and they did a wonderful job of doing it.
What kind of Jim Cracker do you call that? It's a new miniature homing device issued by our Double K section.
It works on a principle not unlike that of the laser.
A molecutronic gun.
We can't see them, but they can see us. They're using black light emissions and special finders to pick us up.
And they said, well, you know, what kind of gun are we going to put with that? And he said, well, what about just an, carbine? That ended up the Thrush gun.
Quite impressive. I wish Uncle could afford that.
The Uncle gun, the Uncle Special, was a character all by itself. Sam Rolfe, when he developed, did the development notes originally, wanted a gun.
Sam couldn't tell the front end of a gun from the back end of a gun.
The first version of it was modeled on the Mauser, but it wasn't attractive looking, and they decided that they needed something else.
Well, the first thing was, hey, PPK is a hot item here now. And we looked at other weapons, and the PPK said, it's not bad, but can we do with it all the things we want to do? And they said, well, what is that? And they said, well...
He wanted a formidable gun, but a gun that would be used for good.
He needed a long barrel and an extra long clip.
He wanted it to be semi-automatic, and he wanted it to be automatic.
And a teletopic and a night vision, and blah, 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 and the thing keeps growing and growing, and you say, now, and it has to fit in an attaché case. We said, well, you're crazy.
They picked up a Walther P-38, and they started building the gun on the basis of that. The gun started getting fan letters. When people saw it, people were fascinated by the gun.
A handy gadget.
Yeah, it saves us thousands in phone bills.
Now, this is my favorite. This was what I consider to be the real communicator.
Open channel D.
Open channel D.
This always worked. You could always get a hold of anybody that you wanted to. All you had to do was clear channel D.
I would just pull this out, pull that up, turn it, and say, open channel D.
Channel D is open.
Channel D was just open channel D.
I signed a non-disclosure agreement in 1964 that I'm not allowed to tell you what Channel D is because it's very top secret and we wouldn't want it to fall in the hands of a cable network.
I guess it was the way I connected with David or somebody else when I wanted to speak to them with this pen that was, in effect, a intercom of some kind. I could talk anywhere in the world to anybody else.
It would go, if it was ringing, and I'd answer it.
Nobody really understood how they worked, except that we knew this is always a great way to get a hold of anybody you wanted to just by going to Channel D.
I hate to trouble you with trivia, but I think I'm about to get killed, and it struck me that perhaps you might want to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
At one point, they wanted a cigarette case.
This is the original cigarette case communicator. This was used throughout the entire first season of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It was also used a bit into the second season. And as you can see, it looks like cigarettes in it.
Light me, please.
But what they decided to do then was to make a sleeker version of the cigarette case communicator. They would open it up like this, and there you would see the fake cigarettes.
It had a lighter on the top, and then it would hold on two sides of the door about 10 cigarettes on each side.
And they would flip that over, and you'd see the entire communication center with a little dial here that Solo or Ilya would turn, a little tape recorder and so forth. And then they would flip the lighter out like this, and there would be the microphone.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was really one of the first shows that really cultivated the merchandising boom. There really was A great deal of foresight on the part of the producer, Norman Felton, in terms of seeing how this show could really have a merchandising angle for it.
I have always heard that Norman Felton and Sam Rolfe sat down together and said, you can make an awful lot of money in this world out of merchandising.
We were never instructed nor suggested to use any particular items because they had merchandising value.
There were Uncle toy transmitters. There were Uncle pens that you could play with, that replicas of the transmitters. It was impossible to walk into a toy store without seeing, you know, Uncle items prominently displayed all over the place.
Uncle gun was so cool.
The Uncle Special Rifle, which came in a box the size of a tractor trailer. You were persona non grata if you were a 10-year-old boy in the neighborhood that didn't have the Uncle Special.
You know, I took this whole thing into school, into junior high. I would build my own spy gadgets. I would replicate the gadgets that I would see on The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And the toy companies never got it exactly right. They put it out, but it was always something off.
They had an Ilya Kuryakin cigarette lighter that would fire a pistol from it. It was of no practical use because no one could carry this cigarette lighter. It was about the size of a quart of milk. But that's certainly never seen in the show. But I think there's a case where the toy companies, it got so big, they went to Norman Felton and said, look, forget about whether it's seen in the show or not. We'll just create our own stuff that we think will sell.
Ah, yes. All guaranteed not only to protect you, but to arouse the interest of a teenage boy. They'll also appear transparently innocent to the casual observer.
The gadgets to me were always very secondary, and we didn't have the money or the resources to do the kind of things you do in a Bond film, so ours were more modest. But the show didn't depend much on gadgets. It really depended on a sense of humor and having kind of interesting ideas, and I think that's what people tended to respond to.